know where you're going, by the way?
Because
you don't have a map. You only have a map of where you've been.
Yeah. Part of it's memory. The other part is that it doesn't necessarily matter where I go, because I have to go to find, like... I basically have to fight 9 bosses.
Oh, yeah.
I know it sounds like that, but it's not that bad.
You didn't even beat whatever his name, Beelzebub.
Oh, I know. But we'll get there.
So now we gotta go back!
I went a different direction.
You're killing me.
I really, like, in that case, I went to the wrong place, because I wasn't strong enough for that. You know, I think the key to that fight, which I didn't even do when I played by myself, I think the key is to get the poisonous gas, and then just fucking sit on him. So when he's up there and you can't hit him anymore, you just turn it into the mist and just stay on top of him, and he just dies.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, speaking of all this space stuff, I was reading a really, really interesting article about the Fermi paradox. Have you ever heard about this?
No.
Okay, so you have, but you may not have heard the name.
Put the name to
exactly. So it's the question of why is there no signs of intelligent life anywhere in the galaxy?
Mm-hmm.
And I got into this debate recently, and this individual said, it's mathematically impossible that we're the only ones that are here. And I was like, sure. But then where's the evidence of that?
It's impossible, it's improbable.
It's just that was
we
their
could
claim.
be the first ones that evolved to this point, but
it's almost like you've read this article. Check us out.
Okay.
So there's actually 3 schools of thought on this, and it was fascinating to me. Explanation Group 1, which is the one that I currently adhere to.
Okay.
There are no signs of higher civilizations because there are no higher civilizations in existence. Basically, the idea is that with as ginormous as the universe is and everything that we've explored, even if there's only 0.01% of civilizations that had become as big as we were, that would still mean that there are thousands or millions of civilizations out there with at least our technology.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just math. That's literal probability. And since we can't observe them, something must be happening. And so the first theory is of what's called the Great Filter, which this is what I adhere to because it makes the most sense to me. Which means that, yeah, as a civilization, there were most likely other forms of intelligent life out there, but they've either died out or they haven't achieved intelligence yet. And there's a certain thing that's preventing them or keeping them there. And so here's the idea. So in other words, humanity didn't exist for X amount of years, right? It was just protoplasms and all these different things that weren't necessarily intelligent life, but it was still life. So we haven't observed life yet in the universe, but we very well will, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just intelligent life is that much harder, because if you think of all the minutiae of probability that it takes for evolution and all these different things to happen for us to exist, that is a very, very unlikely scenario that we even exist. We know that. So imagine doing that 10 or 15 or 1,000 more times. And so the idea is that there could be plenty of life out in the galaxy, but we're the first intelligent life form. Or we're just the next one that's going to get chopped off. Yeah. So in other words, the idea is that we get so smart that we just kill each other. We all kill each other because we get so good at destroying, creating tools of destruction that all of a sudden our civilization's wiped out as well. And the idea is that it's possible that the same thing happened to other civilizations.
Yeah.
Right? So there could have been other civilizations out there, but maybe they've already destroyed themselves because they fucked it up too. It's just fascinating.
We're all the same.
So that's really cool to me, is that, like, with the Great Filter, the idea is either we're rare, so we're very, very, very unique in that our civilization is still alive and past the Great Filter, or we're just the first to do it. And that's another reason why this theory makes the most sense to me, is that, okay, yeah, we're the only civilization out there with intelligence. Doesn't mean that there won't be hundreds or thousands of them after us. It's just that we might have done it first, which is really fascinating. Like, our Earth, there are a certain number of Earths that are a similar distance from their suns that can support life, but we just happen to be the first one to do it by random chance. So that's really cool to me, because again, it has nothing to do with religion, it has nothing to do with anything besides probability, to just say, okay, we might be the only ones for now. And then the other one, which we just discussed, was like that we're screwed. Is like every civilization gets to a peak and then basically destroys itself, and we might be next. So it's just really fascinating how all that works. So there's actually two other explanations. For example, explanation number 2 is that intelligent civilizations are out there, and there are logical reasons why we might not have heard from them. Which is basically the idea that super intelligent life already visited Earth, but we missed it.
Or they're not interested in talking to us.
Or,
too dumb.
Exactly, like the rest of the universe is colonized in a very central situation. We're just some backwater planet.
Basically.
I mean, it's all just fascinating theories for why this could be.
I like the first one that you talked about, because it does kind of, without me expanding upon my own theories and thoughts about it, it does explain that. It's like, I don't assume we're the only life form in the planet, in the galaxy, but it does make sense that we might be the only one right now, or at least the only intelligent one. What of course is weird is that we haven't found any form of life.
Well, right, but technically we've only studied 5 planets so far.
And there's way more out there.
There's trillions, and so it's literally like, I believe that there will be life out there, and people are gonna have to deal with that because they're like, no, we're the only ones. It's like, I don't think so. But the point is, observably, we're the only intelligent life out there. Whether that's because we don't know what we're looking for, or because we really are the only ones. So this person that I was talking to had great intentions of just being like, no, it's impossible that we're the only ones. And it's like, actually, no. And so under explanation 2, there's also another idea, which is it's possible, and humans would do this. Like, people would do this. It's possible that once a civilization like ours, or like another one that came before us, reaches a point where it's a super predator, and it just stymies every other civilization after that. So in other words, if America can become the ultimate spacefaring country, we'll prevent every other country from doing it. Because we're like, no, we're going to be on top. And so basically it's possible that either somebody else did this to us, or is about to do this to us, or is on their way to doing this, is that once a civilization gets a certain size, it's just reaped. Just like in Mass Effect.
Jesus.
Which is nuts, right?
Yeah.
And this is real sci-fi. This isn't just like, oh, what if it happened? It's like, no. One of the reasons why we might not see other civilizations because they're all dead, and we're next. It's like amazing.
So, you brought up earlier about us killing ourselves off, basically. Unfortunately, I see that as being one of the potentials, because the thing that I subscribe to, and I know you know about it, the Singularity and Ray Kurzweil and all of his theories. That's what I think is going to happen, and the realistic thing about it is that I feel like it's either going to be that, or it will be us killing each other off, and in part because of that.
Sure.
Because some of us, start subscribing to this thing where we're decide that, well, I'm going to be more robotic and become part of the machine, and then other people get afraid of that and just start throwing nukes around. Right?
And it's a very possible situation.
Yeah.
Like, and we're going to get into AI in a second, because that's the other article that I read.
Okay.
All of this is from Wait But Why. It's an amazing blog.
Is that the thing you posted about?
It's posted about it.
Okay, yeah, I have the link up on my PC still.
Save it for your drive.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. And again, before we jump into that, the final option for why we don't know if there's other civilizations out there is it maybe that our technology is just too...
Fuck! I hate those green fucking skeletons.
It's possible that our civilization is just too primitive to see them existing around us.
Yeah.
Like, we could be ants compared to what they are. So it's like, well,
they don't even realize it. God, it's so much to think about.
Now, how much backtracking will we do this time? We'll beat it in 2 hours, guys. 2 hours.
We might fast forward this part.
Are you gonna actually have to fast forward this part?
I don't know. That's what I'm gonna see. I need to see where we're at. No, we're okay. We're okay. We're not that bad. So continue on.
Sure. So anyway, the other thing I was reading about was, and one of my best friends sent me these articles, and I was just blown away by that, is that the way technology works, and there are detractors from this. This is a good discussion. None of this is fact.
Yeah.
But the way technology works is that it seems to double every 18 months. So humans have evolved to think linearly. We say, what happened last Monday is going to happen next Monday. And that's how our brains work. And we'll say that if you go to college, you'll get progressively smarter until you have your degree. Whereas computers move exponentially, which is every time a certain period of time passes, it doubles. And that doesn't work for our brains. Imagine if for the first week of college you learn a little bit, and then the next week you learn a lot, and then the next week you learn way more than that. Like, it would freak you out. Like, our brains aren't just prepared for this.
They wouldn't take it, yeah.
And so that's what's happening with computers, and we can't see it, but it's coming really fast. So effectively, and I'm going to take a second to pull this up, but effectively computers were only as smart as ants maybe 15 years ago.
Which is crazy to think about.
And now they're almost as smart as mice, which is, we just went from an insect to a mammal in the course of maybe 10 or 20 years. So if we can do that, it's not long until the computer is going to be as smart as a human. And that's what I actually posted on my Facebook and said, by 2025, if the trend continues, and that's a big if, but it's there, we can buy a home computer that's as smart as a human. That's like, what the fuck?
And that's one of the big key points in Kurzweil's timeline. Once the computer reaches, once the AI level reaches like human intelligence, and the what's the test called? The Turing test is passed. That will be that will be a key turning point in the Singularity, like, coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Beyond that, it's mostly about technology us improving technology at a growing pace, and then eventually the AI will be smart enough to improve technology itself.
Yeah.
And that will continue to exponentially increase in speed. And then once that's too fast for us to even really follow, then that's the Singularity.
Yeah, and then who knows,
yeah.
Right? And that's what's so cool about all this, is that effectively, once we have a computer that's as intelligent as humans, it's not going to be long until we have a computer that's as intelligent as all humans. And that's like the big surprise that's going to happen, because it could be very quick. And what we'll learn about exponentiality is that getting to human brain capability will be hard. But getting to all human brains on Earth capability won't be hard. At that point, it's going to get really easy the farther it goes, because again, exponentiality works like that. It's like, instead of from going on a linear path of 1 to 60 when you're trying to drive your car, it's like every second you go from 0 to 20 to 40 to 80 to 160. Like, our brains can't handle it. It's nuts. So there's 3 different types of AI that were defined in this article. There's artificial narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and artificial superintelligence. So ANI, ASI, and AGI. I said those out of order then. We have ANI right now. That's Siri. Siri is an artificial narrow intelligence. Yeah. If you ask Siri, give me directions to the mall, Siri's got you. If you ask a chess computer how to play chess, it'll beat every human. But if you ask a chess computer how to get directions to the mall, it falls apart. It has no idea. And that's what's cool, is because we can understand those. We can program those right now. But an artificial general intelligence is the kind of intelligence that's as smart as a human across the board. And again, referencing this article, it has everything to do with things that humans are good at naturally. We've been able to program computers to do things humans are terrible at, which is compute basic mathematics, understand logarithms, understand algorithms, like all these really hard things that our brains haven't evolved for.
Yeah.
Whereas a computer has very, very tough time doing things like comprehending complex ideas or synthesizing problems abstractly. Like, these are things that the human brain over millennia was able to figure out because it needed to. Whereas we never needed to compute a 1 million digit square root of something, Whereas a computer can do that simply. So artificial general intelligence is literally when a computer is as smart as a human. And that's where things get really interesting, because once it's as smart as a human, it starts blowing up. And so there's evidence, based on different readings of how this future could play out, where the next level of getting to artificial superintelligence could be anything from hours to years. Whereas, yeah, I saw that.
We got our shield back.
It took us this long, which is bullshit. But artificial superintelligence is basically where it's now more intelligent than humans, and it gets to a point where it's impossible for us to understand. For example, when I try to explain complex business structures to a 5-year-old, their brain can't even fathom what I'm saying because they don't have enough understanding of the basics. You have to understand complex business structures. You have to understand how do humans interact with each other, how does commerce work, how does economics work, how does psychology work. You have to be familiar with all these different things, and they just can't fathom it. And that's where we'll be very soon. Like, once we have an artificial superintelligence, we'll ask it questions, and the answers it gives us, we won't even understand.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I think one of the big ones is we're really excited for a computer with artificial superintelligence to be able to deal with the fact that quantum mechanics and one other theory don't line up. And, like, for an artificial superintelligence, that might just be the easiest thing ever. It'd be like, oh, well, no humans could deal with this? Okay, I got you. Here's your answer. You know? So what's cool is that once we get an artificial superintelligence, the possibilities are really endless if it's nice to us. So it could be what this article describes as an oracle, where it answers any question we ever ask it, or it could be a genie, where it gives us anything that we want. For example, if it's super intelligent and we say, okay, we don't want to drive cars anymore, we just want to teleport, it could develop teleportation. Like, it's a super intelligence, it's not a problem. Because it's constantly getting smarter. Again, once it's a super intelligence, when you multiply 1 billion times 1 billion, it's not going to go slow. It's going to go big really quick.
Yeah.
And putting aside the fact that there's all these different questions of, like, will it kill us or will it be nice to us? Like, just the fact that we can have... We're basically creating our own, like, overwrite, basically. Like, humanity has been the dominant force, dominant species on Earth for X number of years, and we're basically creating our successor.
Let's see, there is
wild.
an aspect of this that I'm interested that you're not talking about. Because it is an important aspect of it as far as controlling the AIs that we create and things like that. Another aspect of this singularity and this technological increase is human modification. Mm-hmm. With our ability to create an AI that's smarter than us, there's also going to be the ability to create a... there's also going to be the ability to create, not only, like arms and legs and organs that are better than what we have.
Yeah.
But also brains. We'll be able to create processors that are better than what our brains is and be able to use those ourselves. Mm-hmm. Effectively, we're going to, become robots. That's how most people will think of it.
Yeah. Cyborgs.
Cyborgs is a better way to put it, more accurate way to put it. But, so, I think that's going to be an important part of keeping these AIs and things that we create under control, because we will want to stay smarter than them.
And I don't think that's possible.
I don't think so either.
I think that what we will learn through nanotechnology and all these different things is that we can replace parts of the human body that are generally terrible.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like a heart can only be as good as a heart can be. Like,
and only for so long.
Yeah, we're 20 years old, in our 20s, I suppose. And so our heart is never going to be better than this. It is at the peak performance that our heart is going to be.
Pretty much.
And so
and it's not even like as good as it should be because of the way the world is.
So what's crazy is that, like, we can replace our heart with a machine to give us superpowers, effectively. Or we can develop technologies in medicine to regenerate our heart every day to make it just as good as it always was. So it's like, where is technology going to take us? Is it going to take us in the amputation route, where we simply swap out body parts as we go? Or are we going to learn how to basically keep the human body in peak physical condition, but not enhance it with all these different technologies that we've learned about?
I definitely see the switch out and go being the first way.
First way?
Yeah.
Really? You don't think that we would...
We're already at the point where we're creating limbs and stuff for people that don't have limbs. Why would that not be the first step, is creating one that's better than what we have, and then everybody switching to that?
This might be an instance where your love for progress and logic are overcoming the fact that most people would see that as inhuman. Like, yeah, in limited cases, it's great that we can give amputees and war veterans new hearts. But if we start saying, consumers, you can live an extra 20 years by buying this heart, there's some people who are going to literally see that as an affront to humanity. Like, that's when things start getting weird. Imagine
Soylent.
Well, yeah, Soylent has had
it'll be the same aspect.
Pretty visceral negative connotation from people who are very traditional. But it's not the kind of thing where it's going to extend my life with a certain claim. But if you can say that if the number one killer in America is heart disease, which I think it is, and we give everyone artificial hearts that make them live 20 years longer, well, shit, especially if the heart is expensive, now we're saying that if you're rich enough, you can live forever. And it's like, oh, damn. There's going to be a lot of hoopla.
And I see that being the case. Like, I mean, taking anything else out of it, we're obviously going to be creating artificial pieces before we can create, like, biological replacements. You know? We're going to create an artificial, blood pump that you can replace your heart with before we create an organic heart that's from nothing, you know?
I would say yes, but they're not going to be very far apart. And I say that because we've already been able to regrow rat limbs from just basic cells, and we're working on developing meat that's built in a petri dish that's just cells created from the normal cellular processes. So I feel like before we perfect any one technology, we'll have the option of both. Like the artificial heart right now, it works, but it's still a monstrosity, you know?
Yeah. Well, so then going into the same sort of direction, what about the whole idea of the hive mind? Like, that is part of the singularity.
So, in my opinion, the singularity won't be with humans. It'll simply be when machines have now replaced...
There?
Well, I don't believe humans are going to be subsumed into the singularity. Like, for example, if you told me that 10 years from now, we're going to be able to install a tiny chip into our brains that give us access to the entirety of Wikipedia, I would believe you. And I'd be like, yes, that makes perfect sense. Like, the majority of school, unfortunately, isn't learning. It's, hey guys, recall these facts. Facts that are invalidated every 50 years in science, and even quicker in technology. So if it's just a fact remembering contest, that's a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah.
If you can give a chip to a 5-year-old that makes them as smart as a high school senior,
I know
every country is going to do that. But that's not singularity, in my opinion, because it's not going to be.
No.
It's not going to be wirelessly updated. It's not going to be hive mind. I don't think that you can have humanity with hive mind.
That's the argument.
Well, right. So we might be human 2.0, but we won't be humans as we know them now. Whereas if you swap out my heart and give me a chip in my head, I'm still human. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. Is that?
But I do think, like, inarguably, I think that's the direction it will eventually go. I mean, eventually humanity is going to evolve, and it's going to be by our own hand,
right.
Like, feasibly. Like, that's what it looks like. So, first we're going to create a computer that is as strong as the human brain. Then we're going to be able to effectively copy, like, download the human brain to a computer. Then we're going to create robotic bodies, and then we're going to be able to put those copied minds, those digital brains into those bodies.
I wouldn't take it that far. I would say that why do we need bodies at all?
That it does go to that eventually.
But why even go to that step?
Lagging.
Why even go to that step? Honestly, it's like once we've uploaded our consciousness into the boat, we'll call it the boat, I suppose.
Yes.
There's no point in having any kind of unique humanity. There unique personhood. There should be no body. It just doesn't make sense. If you look at what the Matrix explored, it's like, look, emotions are just electrical impulses. Memories are just electrical impulses. Like, everything that we could do, it would just be like our own Matrix, you know? I think that makes sense.
I think that's, like, me and Emily have actually talked about this a lot. She's super afraid of this and specifically how into it I am.
Yeah, because you want it.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
I'm totally with, like, the process is going to be like I just said, where it'll be robot bodies. We'll still live on the Earth. We'll have all this stuff, but we'll have access to this massive, server of where everyone can share information just through their brains. It's all wirelessly connected, and all information and data is shared. So beyond that, once space exploration, like sadly enough, I don't think it's really going to be substantial until this point. But space exploration will be all of humanity exploring space, and
Curious.
Our ship will basically be a giant server of everybody in it. And I think, because of how humanity is, we will probably have like a matrix that's inside that's we're living in.
I think Stargate,
but the ship is living on its own.
This.
Is it?
Yeah, between Stargate Atlantis and Stargate Universe, they explored this idea that like a ship does the exploring for us.
Yeah, because it has the AI. It has
we're in
people running
stasis that simply allows us to enjoy the ride.
Our brain power is basically all connected because all of our brains are those supercomputers that we created already that are basically just
interesting.
It's a what do they call it when you have a server farm? It's just all of our brains are this just super connection of computers that are doing all of the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
While we used 10% of that or 1% of that.
Well, that was
living what life we want inside of.
Oh right, okay, gotcha.
No, I mean once we have these supercomputers, the 1% that we would need to be even better than we are right now could be spent in this matrix where we're all doing whatever we want. We all have our own Earth. It's heaven, basically. Yeah. That's what everyone's idea of heaven is, and that's what it would be. And everyone can, this person has their D&D world that they want to live in, that they have full control over their brain, and other people can visit it and whatever, but then they can go back to their 2015 life.
Yeah, I can see that. I would say this, that the end result, when you really take this to logical extremes, and the thing is, nobody's talking about this, but it's going to happen. And there's evidence that if the trend continues, we will be dealing with these questions within our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Like, this is the next 60 years of the human evolution.
Especially with the advancement of this kind of things that will increase our lifespan.
And we're just not ready.
Keep us around.
We have no idea what this means. And because people can't fathom that this change is going to happen. For example, there is enough evidence to say that we shouldn't probably be using the current crop of phone technology 10 years from now. It'll look ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
An iPhone will look stupid because it'll just be something like Total Recall, where it's a small implant
the iPhone
in our
1
palm.
already looks stupid.
Right. And that was, what?
7 years ago?
Something like that, exactly. So another 7 years at the rate of speed that we're going, it's just unfathomable.
I saw a Woot today had like refurbished iPhones on there. The first one on the list was a 3GS. And I was like, fuck no. Because I need a new phone, unfortunately, and I'm probably not going to be able to get a 6. But I'm not getting a fucking 3GS. An iPhone that 4 years ago was like
cutting edge.
Amazing.
Cutting edge. Exactly. And so we can't fathom that these changes are happening, but they're already happening. It is moving that fast. And so there's people who say all the time that you need to have a social media diet, or you need to have an information diet, or you need to have a technology-free life. And I literally look at them like, do you know what that is going to mean? Like, if you skip out on technology or social media
you're left behind
for 1 year, the advancements that are going to be made 10 years from now in 1 year are going to shock you. You're going to be useless.
You're going to be like an old person who didn't have a computer until, last year.
Yeah.
Like, you would be so out of the loop and not know what's going on.
Like, the fact that my parents, as intelligent and up-to-date as they are, can't keep up shows us just what's going to happen to us. It's like, if you're not constantly plugged in, you're going to miss it big time, because it's going to go from... computer technology has basically gone from, okay, every 5 years you get something really big, to now it's like, alright, every 2 years you get something big.
Every 2 years you get a new numbered iPhone.
Logically, it's not going to be very long until every 6 months you get something really big. I mean, that's just how exponentiality works. And so, like, I just believe that the big key question...
I just found a safe point. It's been a while.
The big key question is exactly what you said. Either the singularity is going to be our immortality, or it's going to be our extinction.
Yes.
One or the other. It's either going to literally kill us, or it's and wipe us out, or it's going to turn us into basically gods.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating, because again...
We are constructing our evolution, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, one way or another. And honestly, who cares? Right? If we construct... if we literally construct our doomsday device, it's not like we're gonna live any longer than we would otherwise. So what is our job really survival of the species, or is it just survival as long as we alone can?
It's just the natural path that whatever humanity was set to follow.
Right. And I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You learn.
It doesn't matter what religion you subscribe to or whatever. It is what it is.
You learn that in the Halo lore that basically the Halo rings.
Sure,
yes,
I'll take it.
Yes, they're super weapons, but the reason they're lush planets and have all this life is because even though the oh god, are they the Prometheans? I can't remember. Even though they knew they were going to kill, even though they know they're going to kill all life on the galaxy, they wanted to have a backup plan. And it's okay if we have a humanity backup plan where we simply reseed our consciousness back into the world if this doesn't work. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in that idea of the spaceship moving around and stuff. When Emily, when she heard that, she was like, "Well, what happens if something goes wrong with the spaceship?" It's like, well, we're digital, and we would have more than one. They would be wirelessly connected and constantly backing up on each other.
Yeah,
but
copies of copies of copies.
Yeah, we would never die.
And technically, think about it like this: we've already mastered test tube babies.
Yeah.
All it takes is 1 or 2 or 3 or 100 of them stored really deep in the ground, and when some kind of kill switch is triggered, they simply grow up, and they're given all the sum of our intelligence. I mean, it's not. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. We already have the pieces in place to make this happen.
Yeah.
So
it's just a matter of increasing processor and memory, and
it's only a matter of time. Exactly.
Mapping the human brain.
And
that's something we've been working on for a long time, and we've made strides.
Yeah.
We're still just getting there.
And what's cool is that, again, the kind of problems that we're dealing with right now are silly to a
totally
super
silly.
Intelligent computer.
Marriage?
It could literally be that it takes us another 40 years to fully understand the human genome, and yet if we still haven't figured it out by the time we have an artificial superintelligence, the superintelligence will be like, here it is, here's your answer.
Yeah.
Here, that was 80 years of work in 1 second. That's the kind of insanity that's going to be happening.
And it makes me feel kind of heartless sometimes too, but when we talk about this kind of stuff, like Emily, she, her fears, she wouldn't want to become robotic or anything, because it's like, well then, and
it's an identity crisis.
Joy and love and all that stuff goes away. I was like, yeah, but
so what?
If you did it, you would cease caring.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one thing that a lot of people at some point will fear in this is if we all live forever and things, why would we want to have children? And it's like, well, you won't.
You won't. Yeah.
You will have no.
That's a biological desire.
Yeah.
Literally, what I learned through understanding how testosterone works, for example, is that yes, old people have sex all the time, but an 80-year-old man's drive in life is no longer to reproduce.
Yeah.
He may have sex, but it's not because he's literally like, okay, I need to do this.
Create heirs and spread my seed.
It's just chemicals.
No.
It's chemicals in your brain telling you what to do. If you've ever been a guy, I assume there's a female equivalent. I just haven't lived that life. If you've ever been a guy who's on a testosterone high, you're literally like, dude, I want to beat someone up, eat some steak, or have some sex. You're literally just so pumped up on your own chemicals that you can't handle it. And the same can be true for love. There's what love drunk is literally you have this massive crush and you can't think straight. So, even though I love the depth and breadth of human interaction and emotion, it's not real.
It's pointless. Yeah,
it's just our brain interpreting
in the grand
signals.
scheme. Yeah.
It's not to say that I don't believe in love. Come on, don't hear me wrong. I'm being extreme in this sense. But what really? Love.
We're saying all this, but we still are human, and we have those.
No, we're actually past the singularity at this point.
Yeah.
This is on the other side of it. But that's what I mean. Is of course, it feels amazing to love, but we know what it is. It's kind of like when people lie to themselves about wanting to, travel the world someday. It's because it feels better to delude yourself than it actually does to say, yeah, I'm probably never going to leave this city. Mm-hmm. And so, we just like to be realistic about these kind of things.